Do you want to speak English like a native English speaker? In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 6 research-based criteria that actually define a native speaker. And for each one of these, I'm going to be providing you guys with an actionable tip that you can implement right away to help you achieve this. Only one of these is outside of our control, and that's the age of acquisition of the language. But the other 5 criteria are actually fair game to conquer at any age, even later in life. So to my wonderful subscribers, welcome back, you guys. And if you're new here, then welcome. My name is Victoria, and I post videos every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for those of you guys who are looking to master the American accent. So if you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe and join in on the fun. So I always assumed that Polish was my one and only native language because that's the language that I learned as a baby. However, in recent years, I kind of began to struggle with this idea that my native language wasn't my best language. It wasn't my most proficient language. Even though I'm still very much fluent in Polish, I definitely speak better English. And so recently, I actually began reading up on this. What constitutes a native language? And I was surprised to find, though I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was surprised to find that there's a whole body of research surrounding what does constitute a native language, and things aren't always so clear-cut. So while there are really lots of different research articles and opinions about this topic, this video I'm actually basing upon the work of a man called Joseph Lee, and he wrote a paper called The Native Speaker, an Achievable Model. So he did all of his own research and he actually compiled all of it into 6 points that he thought constitute what is a native language. And so I'm going to share each of these with you guys right now. And for each of them, I'm also going to share with you an actionable tip that you can use to make progress with whatever it is he's saying. So the first point is, the individual acquired the language in early childhood and maintains the use of the language. So again, this is the only one out of the 6 that we really can't change. We can't travel back in time. So let's move on to number 2. The second point is the individual has intuitive knowledge of the language. I very much agree with this one. And I think that the best way that you're going to develop intuitive knowledge of a language is through lots and lots and lots of excellent quality input by various speakers in different contexts. So again, to get a feel for this variability that exists within a language, you have to expose yourself to lots of variability. So this doesn't mean that you have to listen to talks about politics if you hate politics. You can stay within your interest areas, but really ensure that you're getting different voices speaking in different contexts, and that's really going to help you quite a bit. The third point is the individual is able to produce fluent, spontaneous discourse. And I think the key word in that point is the word produce. Speaking is a physical act, it's a motor act, right? And so the only way that you're going to improve at speaking is by speaking. So if right now you're finding that it's awkward to speak English and it's not fluent, it's choppy, the only way that you're going to get better is by forcing yourself to talk. You can even talk to yourself. You can talk out loud and record yourself or even not record yourself, but speaking more is going to allow you to get more fluent the more you practice. The fourth point is the individual is communicatively competent and able to communicate within different social settings. So basically this point is referring to politeness rules, and these vary cross-culturally and very much regionally as well. So I think that there are 2 things that you guys can do to tackle politeness rules. The first is to actually read up on politeness rules. So if you've recently moved to the United States, for example, from a different country, then just read about some of the differences. Literally, if you Google cultural differences between my country and whatever country, a bunch of stuff is likely to come up. So start there for the really big picture stuff. However, from there, really be an excellent, astute observer to track down regional differences. So for example, in the South, the word ma'am is frequently used and it's considered to be a polite expression. However, in other parts of North America, this expression isn't used at all. So let's say you're in the Northeast and you're calling someone ma'am, Perhaps she'll just attribute it to a regional difference and think, oh, that was very polite, but perhaps she won't. Perhaps she'll be actually offended thinking, he's calling me ma'am? What does he think, I'm 95 years old? So this is just a very simple example that we have to be very good observers for regional differences. The fifth point is the individual identifies with or is identified by a language community. So a language community can be very broad, like saying, my husband speaks American English, or it can be much more narrow, like saying, my husband is a New Englander, and so he speaks American English like a New Englander. So for example, if someone is born and raised in the United States, and they're still living in the States, and one day they decide that they in fact want to speak British English, it would be very, very unusual to the people in their environment to know what to do with this kind of a situation. So typically, native speakers sound like their language community. Keep in mind that in addition to pronunciation and speech patterns, a language community will also very likely share expressions and idioms and slang terms. So these are all things to pay attention to. So the actionable tip for this point is, again, to pay very, very good attention to what the speakers of this language community do, how they speak, the expressions that they use. And the sixth point is, the individual does not have a foreign accent. So what is an accent? An accent constitutes our pronunciation, our rhythm, and our intonation. My actionable tip for this point is to be very objective and know exactly what it is that you're working on. So if you're focusing on pronunciation, focus on pronunciation and don't worry too much about intonation at that moment, because our brain really has a fixed capacity, and when you're working on something, you want to devote all of your mental energy to that specific topic. Doing it this way will allow you to master this topic more easily and hence just speed up the process and make it more efficient. My other actionable tip for this point is, if you're specifically working on your pronunciation, go to youglish.com and listen to many different people saying the word that you're working on. It's a very powerful process and it's very effective. So there you have it, my friends. Let me know what you guys thought of this criteria, and I'd be especially curious to know what you guys think is the biggest challenge for a non-native English speaker to master in terms of this criteria. If you guys like this video, please give it a like, please share it with a friend or on your social media. These things really help my channel and I very much appreciate them. All right, you guys, well, that's all for today's video. Take good care and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.